how's it going? Welcome to Screen Speak, a podcast that's all about movies, life, and so much more. I'm Jordan Anderson, this is my podcast, and I do sincerely appreciate each of you for coming by and giving it a listen. If you haven't done so already, please do one of the following plugs that I'm about to mention. Go ahead and follow or download episodes of Screen Speak on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Google Podcasts. You can also check out the Instagram page for the podcast, simply titled @ScreenSpeakPodcast. If you want to go ahead and follow on there for some exclusive content for the podcast, you can definitely go ahead and do that. I do encourage it, of course. And then lastly, you can check out the YouTube channel for the podcast, where I have some sound bites, and eventual video support will get there once I have the time to be able to actually get around to doing that. But for now, please do one or all of the plugs that I just mentioned, and that would be super terrific and awesome of each of you. Each of you, please, I'm begging you, please. I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna beg yet. Okay. So I'm here today to talk all about Napoleon Dynamite. So Napoleon Dynamite, for those of you that may or may not be aware, came out in June of 2004, and it follows awkward teen Napoleon Dynamite, that's played by John Heder. It takes place in a small town called Preston, Idaho, which I believe is a real place. I mean, I know Idaho is a real place. But anyways, it follows Napoleon Dynamite, who is a troubled teen, or not, trouble's not the right word. He's an awkward teen that has trouble fitting in. He's very, very awkward, very much, I guess I would say, an individualist. But anywho, after his grandmother is injured in an accident, his life is made even worse when his strangely nostalgic Uncle Rico, played by John Grise, shows up to keep an eye on him. But with no safe haven at home or at school, Napoleon decides to befriend the new kid, Pedro, played by Efren Ramirez, a morose Hispanic boy who speaks little English. Together, the two launch a campaign to run for class president. And that's essentially Napoleon Dynamite in a nutshell. But anyways, I have actually a bit of personal experience to share with Napoleon Dynamite, maybe more so than some of the other movies I've talked about on here. So for one, it came out in 2004, and I know when it was 2004, I'm trying to think, I graduated high school in 2009, which I think that means I would have been in high school. Good Lord, my mental math is awful. So what, 2006, 7, 8, 9? Yeah, so 2006. So after Napoleon Dynamite had come out, it had been out for a couple of years, and it had already grown in popularity, and it was a pretty popular movie at the time when I was in school. And in particular, freshman year of high school, I remember, because back then, this may come as a surprise to my listening audience here, but back then, high school Jordan, he was a pretty awkward guy, and definitely didn't have a lot of confidence, self-confidence, maybe not even a lot of self-respect, and just an overall, I had a pretty low self-esteem, admittedly, back in those days. And for whatever reason, I guess I got compared to the character of Napoleon often, by a few people here and there. I don't think I can never consider myself to be popular or even really fitting in with the crowd. I think I'm more blended in the background than anything else. But high school was some tough years for me, and Napoleon, I guess I sounded like him when I would talk, because I guess I had not as much inflection in my voice back then. I didn't really have much animation, much personality, so I just kind of talked like this, I guess, in the same monotone. And it's not like the character Napoleon does that. I think his voice is more of a, why don't you get out of here before I call the cops? Hey Tina, you fat lard, come get some dinner. That is the worst impression of that possible. I'm sure if I watched it a couple of times in front of me, I could probably get around to getting the voice right. But I digress. Because I sounded, I guess, a lot like Napoleon Dynamite when I was that young, I would get called Napoleon actually occasionally by kids here and there. I'd say it was probably like more light teasing. I couldn't really say it was like bullying, but people were teasing me because I sounded like that. And because of the old, super low self-esteem, depression, whatever you want to call it, I never really took it that well, to tell you the truth. So I know for a long time I actually didn't like the movie. And I think it's just because of that personal connection with it, where it's like, oh my God, people keep calling me Napoleon. It's getting really old. It's getting really annoying. I don't want to be called Napoleon because I don't think it was as a compliment. It was just like, oh, you're really dorky like Napoleon. But all that aside, the movie is good. It is a very good movie, actually, if I dare say so myself. I think it's a very funny movie. It's a very, very sweet movie in a way, and also innocent. Because the movie is rated PG, so I think it is a movie that it's open to a lot of different audiences. I think it's very accessible, and there's some universal humor in it. In particular, one scene that always stands out because I feel like I like damn near wet myself every time I see it, even to this day. It's when Uncle Rico is sitting on the porch with Kip, which is Napoleon's brother in the movie, and I think it's his brother or his cousin. I don't know if they ever actually say that, but anywho, Uncle Rico's sitting on the front steps of Napoleon's house. And he sees Napoleon riding along with Pedro on a bike. I think Pedro's in the back and Napoleon's operating the bicycle. And he's like, hey, you want to see something cool? He's like, check this out. And he takes a whole steak off the plate and just chucks it at Napoleon's face and hits him. And I think what's great is that, one, it obviously connects. Three things. One, it connects clearly with Napoleon's face. Two, it's the noise that he makes. He's just like, ugh! Like when he gets hit by it. And then I think also just the fact that I'm pretty sure it was real. Like, I'm pretty sure it was a real steak. I don't think they were fake on that. There's no effects there. It's just a man getting hit in the face by steak, which is just a very bizarre thing. And that's something I could say for a lot of the movie Napoleon Dynamite, is that it is bizarre in some of its humor. It's very, very quirky, but kind of understated too. It's never really like ha 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 in your face. It's just, I don't know. There's a certain authentic feel that I think comes from the movie, and it also I think it also captures Middle America pretty well, or at least what it would be like living in essentially like a very small rural community, or a very small town. I don't think I've ever lived in a small town quite like the one that he's from, but I've certainly been in small towns before, and I've spent some time in them, and yeah, I can say it gets the feel of them very, very well. And actually, another interesting thing about the movie is just the fact that if you pay close attention to it, some of the attire, like the clothing that the cast wears and some of their settings, the things they use, it almost kind of seems like very 1970s-ish, or even like from the 80s. Everything seems just like a little bit out of date. And I think that's intentional because, I don't know, the Napoleon Dynamite's family is even kind of a little bit like behind, if you could call it that. I don't really think they're up with the times. They're kind of in their own little world. And it's not just Napoleon that's like that. Like everybody in his family kind of seems, in their own unique little bubble. They don't really seem a part of everything else. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but if you see the movie, you might know what I'm talking about. But the thing I am very, very excited to share the details with you on, finally, because I had been teasing it on Instagram this week, is talking about the experience I had going to an actual live screening of the theater with the main cast, John Heder, John Grise, and Efren Ramirez. They came to the area that I live in. They came to one of our city's oldest theaters here, the Paramount. And I was fortunate enough to be able to not only see the screening of the movie and get to hear the cast come out afterwards and do some Q&A, both with the moderator and then also with the audience. But then I actually got to meet them. I got to meet the three of them backstage and get some pictures with them, get their autographs, and just talk to them actually for a little bit. It was just such a great experience. I've never experienced anything like it. It's definitely, I think, the first time I can say I've actually met somebody from a movie that I know, and a movie that I know very well. And it was amazing. Like, I feel like I watch stuff like these live screening experiences on YouTube all the time. Bit of personal insight on myself here is I watch a lot of YouTube, and I also watch a lot of movie related content on YouTube. So I'm kind of a junkie when it comes to like interview panels, behind the scenes, listening to directors, actors, producers, writers, casting directors, all sorts of different movie people in the movie industry talking about how their thought process works and what they do. And so I avidly watch a lot of this stuff. So it's like I was finally getting to experience those things that I watch often on YouTube, just directly face to face. And it was just so incredible. And I also think that I want more. Like, I really hope this isn't the only type of event like this I get to do. I would love to be able to do more stuff like this and more stuff like this in the future. So I'm really going to try to seek out more stuff like this. Try to go to it, and then if it's worth sharing, I'll definitely share it on the podcast. So there you go. Let me take a quick sip here before I dive into the details. So give me one moment here. So I'm not sure if it matters. Maybe it doesn't. Can you actually hear when I'm taking a sip on here? Can you actually hear this? Let me see here. Let's take a look or take a listen. Okay, I almost spit that out. I was like purposely trying to make the sip noise a lot louder. I don't actually drink like that. It'd be strange if I did. Anywho, I'm drinking some kefir right now. Some kefir blueberry milk. I think you could call it that. It's a fermented milk, which I don't really want to get into the nitty gritty of that, but it may gross you out if you actually take a look at what fermented milk is and how it's made. It's a little strange, but it is healthy gives you good gut health, I guess. It's got some probiotics and other stuff that's good for your plumbing. So there you go. Unofficially, but not at all sponsored by kefir milk. So there you go. One more sip. Hang on. Oh, it is good. Okay. So I mentioned that this screening took place at the Paramount. Paramount's a really cool theater. So I guess, sure, I'll admit the area where I'm at right now. I live in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And the Paramount Theater is one of, I think, the city's oldest theaters, as far as I know. I know, just from what little I know about it, it opened in September of 1928. And I think it actually originally opened as the Capitol Theater. I think that's what it was. Yeah, I think that's what it was originally under. And then over time, it eventually became the Paramount. It's had a number of different renovations over the years. I think you ultimately have to when you have a movie when you have a theater that's like 93 years old. Is that right? Is my mental math correct? Maybe not. I don't know. But it's an old theater and a beautiful one at that. I actually think, a movie theater. Why can't I talk today? What is wrong with me? Clear the throat. No edits. Keep going. That's awful. This isn't funny. What are you doing? Okay. Oh my God. Okay. I'm sorry. That just made this. Oh, it made it a lot worse. Oh. I promise I'm gonna chug so much water before hitting record on one of these again, or otherwise I have to figure out why my throat is so scratchy. Anyway, where was I at before I just went into that bad tangent? So a theater like the Paramount, they're referred to actually as movie palaces, which is kind of an interesting thing. If you have some time, I look up what movie palaces are, and you can learn some cool history about movie theaters. But the Paramount Theater is one of only, I believe, 300 of these that are left actually in the entire United States. So it's pretty cool. I mean, that may sound like a lot, like 300, but that's not that many when you think about how big the United States is. So kind of interesting. As far as like the size of the theater, it sits about like 1,700 people. I would like to say, give or take a few or less here and there, but it's a good size theater, good size. I've seen a few different things at the Paramount, including a couple of different stand-up comedians. Actually, I saw most recently I saw Tom Segura there. When he was doing his Take It Down tour. That was a lot of fun. Very, very much so. I don't get to see stand-up comedians that often. And then, actually, the very first show that I saw there was Jerry Seinfeld. And that was when I was 16, and it was for my birthday present. Birthday present from my awesome mom. So that's pretty cool. You know, when your mom actually knows how into Seinfeld you are, and she not only gets you a ticket, but she goes with you and supports your passion for that, or your interest. Yeah, your interest. That's what I'm trying to say. It's very, very cool. So I'll never forget that. That was an amazing birthday. But I digress. So when I get to the theater, they actually, to my surprise, had a llama and an alpaca that were outside of the theater, which is pretty crazy. And actually, it was funny. So when I got there, I think I got there because I was part of the meet and greet group. I got there like an hour or so before the show, and so I was one of one of the first batch of people to show up. And I just remember there was this black van that pulls up to the front of the theater, and everybody kind of looks at it just thinking that somebody's going to get dropped off. And then all of a sudden, boom, like the llama and alpaca just jump out of the back seat of this minivan. And this didn't seem like a van that was like for, livestock or cattle or anything like that. It just seemed like this could have been any ordinary family van. And then all of a sudden these big animals just jumped out of the back of it. And I just remember when that happened, the people I was with, we were all just like kind of almost doing like a double take. Like, what the hell did we just see? Yeah, it was very bizarre, but they were very, very cool. Very sweet animals. They had a big bale of hay to eat, which I think distracted the llama more than the alpaca. The alpaca seemed more of the sociable between the two of them. But anywho, that was very cool. It was a nice touch because llamas, of course, play a part in the movie. So I thought that was a nice added benefit to the event, and just kind of getting people hyped up to go in and see it was to just have that interactive experience on your way into the theater. So I thought that was very cool. And then I got to do the meet and greet part, which that's ultimately the part I was the most excited about of the whole thing. Like I said, I'm very, very envious of a lot of people in the movie industry, in the entertainment industry, and I'm utterly fascinated with them. I'm very passionate about the industry. Just I'm what can I say? I'm more than a fan. I'm devoted, I guess. Is that the right word? I don't know, But anywho, so you go into the theater, and they kind of, they scan your tickets. You go, they usher you into, I think it's like a rehearsal space. I think that's where they sent us to. It's because we had to go to the essentially like the back of the theater, and then there's a line of people. They check your tickets again to make sure you were legit, as if they couldn't tell that the first time. And then of course you get in there, and I was amongst, again, kind of some of the first to get in there. One thing that they did, it wasn't really disappointing, but they went around with the posters that the cast had already signed before. So it's not like I got to like see them sign the poster. They just kind of gave around. They're just like, here you go. Here's your poster. Here's your poster. Which is fine. And the poster itself, I mean, I know you can't see it. Like, I'm just telling you about it. It's okay. Like the paper quality, the stock of it's okay, but the image quality itself, you can kind of tell that they probably printed it on something that's not super, I don't know, maybe it's not meant to print those types of things. I'm not really sure, because like you can just tell it's a little bit more grainy than I think it should be. But you know, whatever, it's okay. It's an 11 by 17, and it has all three of their signatures on it, and it's gonna get actually framed up in my office space. So I mean, it'll look great there. So I can't complain about that. But then, then they actually came in, John Heater, John Grise, and Efren Ramirez. They came in, and, you know, people were clapping and, you know, cheering and stuff. And I even admit that I think, I don't know, just like in my anticipation and looking forward to it was a bit of I don't even want to say like a starstruck moment, but like I said, it's just not every day that I see somebody that I've seen on a screen so many times, and I've seen John Heater do other things. I like a lot of his movies that he did after Napoleon Dynamite. I know School for Scoundrels, the one he did with Billy Bob Thornton. I actually recently I rewatched that not that long ago, and that's a very funny movie. If you haven't seen School for Scoundrels, definitely check that out. Of course, Benchwarmers. He's very funny in that. Blades of Glory with Will Ferrell. It's another good one. But anywho, so yeah, they came out, and people were happy to see him and whatnot. And then you just kind of waited your turn in line. They had people that work for the theater. They would take your phone so that you could get up to them, talk to them. I did see that they were shaking hands with a few people. I wasn't really sure like what if there were any COVID protocols or anything like that. But anyways, when it got to be my turn, I gave whoever the theater staff was my phone and went up to him. And I just remember, well, hang on, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. I remember that when I was in line, I just kind of kept racking in my head. I'm like, what do I want to ask them? Because I knew I was only going to get so much time with them, and I could, I have a podcast. I can talk a lot, and there's a lot of questions I could ask because I love conversation and I love learning things about other people, especially people that, appeal to me, or I have an interest in their experiences and who they are as a person and what they've done in the past. And so there's so many different things that I think I wanted to ask, but ultimately what I ended up saying when I got up there was just, hey, I introduced myself and, just said, I'm like, fan of you guys. Like, this is so great. I definitely know I thank them for actually coming to Cedar Rapids to do this type of an event, because in Cedar Rapids and in Iowa, I mean, let alone Iowa as a state, there's just not that many movie specific events that come here like this. I mean, I've lived in the city for a long time, and like I said, the Paramount's had some other attractions before, but it's very rarely ever getting anything movie related, but that also actually has the talent from the movie present, and not only present, but actually engaged with the audience and enjoying themselves there. It's just not something that you see that often. And so anyways, when I met them, I talked to John first, and I just said, I'm like, hey, thank you so much for coming to our city and doing this. It's really great. And then I ended up actually telling him what I said sort of towards the beginning of the podcast. I was like, look, I'm like, in a weird way, this is kind of like me coming full circle with you guys, meeting you, because I used to get kind of teased that I was like your character Napoleon, and I outgrew it, and whatever, and now I'm a big fan of the movie, and so getting to meet him was just in a weird way kind of a cathartic experience. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but I think it is. And anyways, he was super nice. He was just super, super nice. He told me that, he's just like, hey, he's like, everybody has a time like that. He's like, it's no big deal. But then he actually told me too that part of the reason that he liked Napoleon as a character and kind of the impact that he's had over time is that he's talked to a lot of different people that, in a weird way, the character is kind of a hero, because even though he's awkward and not really sure of himself, or well, maybe he's sure of himself, but anywho, I'm not really making sense there, but He just basically told me that, a lot of people have periods of their lives like that, and he just thought that the characters made a positive impact on people that could relate to having an experience like that. And just the way he said it, I can't say it the way he said it, but he was very insightful. I actually thought about for how he was describing it. And then Efren Ramirez, he was pretty cool too. I didn't really get a chance to say much to him other than that I told him that I loved him in the Crank movies, and I think he appreciated that. And then John Grise, he was really cool. I think of the three people I met, because John here was really nice. He was super polite, very approachable and just a nice guy. Same with Efren Ramirez, but John Grise he was really, I don't know, it just struck me as being pretty authentic. I don't know, like he just seemed like a very honest guy. Like there was no celebrity about any part of him. Like he just seemed pretty down to earth. Like if I bumped into him on the street, I'm sure he'd probably be pretty nice then too. But he was cool. He asked me a couple questions just about me and like, kind of like if I was from here and that kind of thing. And, nice guy. And so anyways, I got to take the picture with them, and I was a little annoyed because when the picture got taken, it's being taken on my cell phone, and the guy only ended up snapping the photo just once. He took one freaking photo on my digital phone, and you could have done it several times, but no, he's like, I guess, his thumbs must have been tired, or perhaps he just was wanting to, I mean, more than likely he was probably just wanting to move the line along. Yeah, I think that's probably what he was doing. There was a lot of people, and that was the only thing I was kind of like a little bummed about, is that because it's three people, it's like I said, you just want to say so much, and you only have so much time, before they have to kind of, push you along. So, but it was cool. I mean, like the three guys were super, super nice. I thought the picture turned out well, and they were being just great with everybody in the line, honestly. I saw like they would take like selfies with certain people. There was one in particular I noted where Efren Ramirez, he was talking to a lady, and I could overhear her saying that her sister like really wanted to be there, but she was busy or she was like sick or something like that. And they ended up video calling the sister really quick, and he recorded a message for the sister in his character as Pedro. And that was just really sweet. It was very sweet. And there was also a couple of kids there too, and they were like signing autographs for them and like writing out specific messages on their poster. Which again, it was very, very cool. And I really felt like they were having fun with everybody and just really happy to be there. I didn't get the sense that they were just there for a paid gig. I mean, it seemed like they actually were genuinely happy to be there. So it was really, really great. And then, so then after the meet and greet happened, we ended up doing the screening itself. And that was actually unexpected for me for what happened for that, because for one, the way the Paramount Theater is set up, it's not like a traditional movie theater, because it is a theater in the true sense of the word, where they actually have like stage acts and plays and things like that. So it's not like it has a huge 120-inch silver screen on there. It's not like that. So I don't know how big the screen was, but it would probably be considered small to some people, but it was certainly big enough for where I was seated at in the theater. But anyway, the part that I think I was surprised about was how interactive the audience was. They would like, yell at the movie sometimes or laugh. No one really talked, but it was like everybody had permission to audibly react out loud, very loudly and openly. And because of an event like because of the nature of the event, that's what I'm trying to say. Because of the nature of the event, it felt like one of those like old school like Rocky Horror Picture shows that they would do at a midnight showing, where most everybody has seen the movie countless times, and so you're just there to experience it with a group of people. So I always think that's great when you can experience that, especially in a comedy, because you laugh at things that maybe you thought were funny by yourself, but because you're around everybody else, you find yourself laughing at things that maybe you didn't laugh at so much the first time, but because you're feeling the energy of the audience and the crowd, everything just like felt funnier to me. And maybe I was just riding the energy again of the crowd, but I was having a good time. I was laughing at so many different moments. I've laughed, of course, at Rex Kwon Do. you think people think I'm a failure because I go home to Starlight Night? Diedrich Bader as Rex Kwon Do is phenomenal. He's only in the movie for that one scene, and then towards the end when he kicks Uncle Rico's ass. But oh my God, the character of Rex Kwon Do, what a true American hero. But there's so many great just like little quotable moments. It's just like, hey Napoleon, give me your tots. No, go find your own. Idiot. John Heater's delivery as Napoleon is priceless. It's just so good, so good. And so, anyways, aside from all the quotable moments, I don't want to get into all of them because I'm sure most people that are listening to this have likely seen the movie, but there's a lot of great quotes, and it's clear the humor still holds up, which is crazy because the movie's 17 years old, I think 16 or 17 years, if you can believe that, which is pretty wild. But anywho, so the screening wraps up, and then the cast and a moderator. I think the moderator was from some like local radio station. Wasn't any radio station I've heard of, so I'm not really sure where he came from, but he was a good moderator. But anyways, the cast came out. They had like these couches set up on the stage for him, and they all came out, and the moderator asked them some, fairly general questions of like, how did this movie come about, and why do you think it's lasted how long it has, and those kinds of questions. But I will say, when they were talking about that, I learned more about the movie definitely than what I had initially known about it. So I'll just rattle off a couple of things that they said on stage that I didn't really know, but I think is interesting. So one, the movie is an independent film, and it had a budget of, I think they said it was like around like $400,000, which is like next to nothing. Especially, I mean, even for an independent movie, that is like low budget. And it had a budget of like $400,000, and I think when it came out, like it exploded in popularity, and I think it ended up grossing like, I don't know, like 46, 47 million. And that was just then. So I don't even know if that's taken into account, any royalties that come with it, or any, physical media sales over the years, or anything like that. Even these appearances, I'm sure they make money off of those, but it's a very, very popular movie off of a very low budget. And it was interesting hearing them talk about just the budgetary side of it, and kind of talking about how, a lot of movies like that are small and then become big, that, I feel like people always ask, they're just like, hey, did you ever like think that this was going to take off? And I've never heard like an actor, well, maybe once or twice, but I feel like most of the time, most of those people involved with that, they're just doing it because they're, they care about the story, or they have close friends that are involved with it, or they're just there because they love doing it. I don't think they predicted it. The cast definitely did not give me the vibe that they were predicting the success of the movie. But again, sorry to ramble a little bit, but in talking about the independent film side of it, they talked about how like they had to like get the movie to like they were trying to shop it around the studios, and that really it was when the movie screened, they were able to get it to screen at the Sundance Film Festival, that it ended up getting picked up, I think it was Fox Searchlight Pictures. I want to say that's who picked it up. Maybe I'm mistaken on that. I'm not sure, but it got picked up, and then, like I said, it ended up making a lot of money and becoming a very, very popular movie, not just financially speaking, but I think in the pop culture, the zeitgeist, whatever you want to call it. The movie has been one of those ones that has stood the test of time, and people still like it to this day. So I mean, that's why they're able to do an event like this, which is great. I'm trying to think some of the other general questions that the cast talked about. They talked about the tater tots. I remember that because they did say that everything in the movie is very truthful. That's what John Heater kept saying. He said that there is very there's like next to no like fakery or illusions in the movie. Like what you see is what you get for many of the scenes. But he did say that in the scene where Napoleon is sneaking his old tater tots from lunch out of his pockets, that they actually edited the tater tot noise to sound all crunchy and crispy, because he said in reality I think it was like a big like bunch of mush like in his pocket, like it didn't have that crunch crisp noise when he was trying to eat them. So I thought that was a neat little tidbit to hear about. And then I'm thinking what else did they talk about in that, because they talked about the tater tots. Oh, they talked about the dance, of course, the iconic dance at the end, where Napoleon has to do a skit on behalf of Pedro to hopefully help get him elected, and he does that amazing dance number to that Canned Heat song. I can't think of what the actual song title is, but if you've seen the movie, I think you know what I'm talking about. But I was surprised. It was not choreographed at all. He said that he just kind of got told to get on, the stage and just kind of do his thing. And they played that song and had him dance, and I think they said that they did it in like 3 or 4 takes. But then the most interesting part when he was talking about the dance was he said that they had done like 2 or 3 other songs. Like they tried it with a couple other songs just to see how the rhythm would be and whatnot, but that they kept going back to the Canned Heat song. And I think the way it was cut, he said that there was like a couple little snippets here and there where you wouldn't know it, but he was actually dancing to the other songs, but they used part of the dance in the edit that they put together for the final dance sequence. Which is really cool. Like I think the next time I watch it, I'll probably try to like see if I can pick out like where do I think that was like an insert shot, or where it was just clever editing or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, so yeah, he talked about the dance. He actually did the dance a little bit on stage. I'm pretty sure like they had it planned, but they put a bit of the song back on when he was being asked about it, and he got up and started like doing the little pacing thing with his hands in his pockets, and did that great thing where when the beat really kicks on, he kind of flings his back and arches it. It was really fun to see him do that. It was just really, really fun. And then they actually opened up the Q&A to the actual general audience. The moderator, he asked if people wanted to ask questions, or he said, all right, we got a microphone over here, got a microphone over there, so you can go ahead and line up, just pretend like the cast is in your living room and ask away. But go figure. It's I don't want to say a packed theater, but there was definitely a good amount of people there. So I think people were a bit shy in wanting to get up and do that right away. And so eventually people started lining up. And then eventually, I admit, I wasn't sure if I was going to do it or not. But I was like, I mean, come on, how often am I going to be able to have this opportunity? So I went ahead and got in line and waited my turn to ask a question. But in the meantime, when I was listening to the other questions being asked, I enjoyed that part. I think, I was gonna say, apart from like meeting the cast, I really liked the Q&A part, because it was great hearing other people talk about their experience with the movie and sort of like open up about what it means to them and like their family and their friends. And even some of the questions they asked I thought were pretty good. I know one question that got asked was they talked about if there would be a possibility for a sequel. And John Grice, he took the lead on that answer, but he did say that, there's been rumors of it. They've rumbled it around and talked some ideas about it, but there's never been anything concrete on it. But all 3 of them did agree that if, for whatever reason, a sequel were to ever come about and it made sense, that all 3 of them, and likely the rest of the cast they indicated, would sign on in a heartbeat to do it again. I don't know if I would want them to make a sequel to this, just because one, it's been so long, and I mean, I'm trying to really think of a comedy sequel that's from that long ago, that's based on a movie from like 16, 17 years ago that actually can, I don't even want to say surpass the original, because I don't think that happens with comedy sequels like that, but just live up to the first one. And it's so exceptionally rare. I don't really know if I'd want to see that with this movie, but it was fun hearing them talk about it. And honestly, if they did it, I would probably go and see it just to support it, because I do like the movie. I'm a fan. And I don't know, I guess after having this experience, it's like I've met these guys. They're really great. I just want to, I want to support actors. I want to support entertainment. So I would probably go. I'd probably go see it, but I wouldn't have the highest hopes. Another question that got asked that was unexpected, I guess, to say the least, was there was a lady there that said that she had for a long time, possibly even currently, I wasn't 100% sure, but she had talked about how she had lived in a psych ward, a youth psych ward, and then an adult psych ward for like 10 years or something, a really long time. And that she said that their movie Napoleon Dynamite was one that got her through like some like really hard times, and would always bring a smile to her face when she was in like her darkest moments. And she asked the cast like what their perspective is on art and entertainment and its effect that it can have positively on mental health. I know before the cast answered the question, like everybody in the audience, of course, gave a pretty big cheer for it, including the cast. I thought they handled it very well, because the girl was emotional. Definitely think that she was crying a little bit, because big deal, for her to ask that question, especially in front of all those people. I think that takes courage in and of itself to be able to do that. Not everybody would. But anywho, their answer to that was pretty cool. They talked about like, how music is important to them, and that they are, all actors for a reason. They are very, very invested in film and entertainment, and that, them escaping into those worlds is really, I don't think they use the words therapeutic, but it's healthy for them. Like, it's good for them and makes them happy. And I don't know, that type of authenticity I felt that was coming off from them, from their answers, whether it was the emotional question or other ones, it was very good. It was very nice. And so anyways, when it got to my turn, I kind of was like struggling for what I wanted to ask, because again, it's sort of like the meet and greet part where I'm like, I can only have so much time. I can't ask them 5 questions. There's other people that want to use the microphone, so I better make my question count. Because I think originally I was going to ask if when Uncle Rico threw the steak, the character Uncle Rico, John Grise, when he threw the steak, if he hit Napoleon in the face the first time, or if it took a couple takes for him to really nail him. I thought that probably would have been a fun question that, would have been light, kept the audience laughing, that kind of thing. But because I wanted to make the most of my time and their time and try to ask them an interesting question that they might not get asked every day, this is what I asked them. So I directed it to the 3 of them, and I asked, in so many words, what advice would you give to someone, being myself, that has always had a strong passion and desire to further themselves creatively, artistically, and even possibly one day into the entertainment industry. Now, what that form would be, I didn't really specify for the sake of the question, even though myself, I may have some ideas about what I think that could be in the long run. Because truth be told, this podcast is one of those ways for me to try to develop that part of myself more and take it seriously. And so I'm trying to think, how in the hell did I word the question to them? I just basically said that, like, look, given, like, I'm in Cedar Rapids, I'm in the Midwest, and, this is not exactly, I would say, the creative capital of the world. I mean, no offense, Iowa, I love you, but this place that I'm from is not really the most conductive environment for for creative types, I would say. At least that's been my experience anyway. And so I just asked, like, because of Napoleon Dynamite being an independent film and their experience of, becoming celebrities and just kind of everything like that, it's just like, how do you start? I think that's what I essentially was asking them without asking them, is like, what do you do to actually try to further that part of yourself and do it right? Like, what can you do? Because I think for myself right now, I have a lot of aspirations for it, and I am a hardworking person, and I do think I have a voice and I have something to say, and I have a couple different ways that I want to try to do that for real, like for real. And it can seem like daunting. It could just, not only daunting, it can seem like impossible, because you're surrounded by people, and you're raised in an environment where it's like, well, like, no one does that. Only people in Hollywood do that. You can't do that. So I wanted to know their input about what kind of advice they would give for someone that would be in a situation kind of similar to mine, what they would do. And they all three gave pretty good responses, I think, to it. But the person that mainly took the lead on that question was John Grise, the guy that plays Uncle Rico. And I'll paraphrase a little bit, but what he told me, and he was being really serious too. Again, I mentioned when I met him, in the backstage part, I could just tell that he was I don't want to say intense guy, but he just, I don't know. It was kind of weird. It was like he was like looking right through me or right at me or something like that. I mean, of course he was looking at me because I was asking the question, but I'm not explaining this correctly, but like the way he spoke, he was definitely being very specific to me and my situation. And I felt genuine in what he said. And so anyways, I'm dancing around it. What he told me was that I just really need to, above all else, be true to myself. Like, be me for better or worse. I need to not be afraid to be me. And that if I really do have that voice inside me and I need to express it and I'm compelled to do it, then I'll do it, essentially. I mean, that's kind of what he said, is like, if I really have that, then write about it, write what you know, try things, don't be afraid. It's not always going to work. Like, you're going to fail often, but you will find a respect in actually being true to who you are. And that over time, I don't know. I mean, it was really cool the way that he said it. He's just like, if you really want this, man, he's just like, don't let anybody tell you that you're not like gonna do it. Like, don't let anyone make you feel, that you don't have the talent, like you don't have the skill. Like, it was really kind of I don't know, almost like a pep talk in a way. I mean, the words that he spoke to me really hit me, and I think I took them to heart, honestly. I mean, probably because, it came from an actor that I know in movies, and I've seen him in other movies too. But yeah, just what he said really affected me. I mean, it really, I felt it cut through, and I just hope that after what he talked about with being true to myself, that I can find a way and continue to find the right way to be able to do that, because I kind of feel like I'm just at a time in my life where I'm tired of, I'm tired of not being the real me, if that makes sense. And this can mean a lot of different things for anybody that's listening, for what is he talking about being the real him? I mean, I'm authentic here. At least I think I am. But it's like there's other aspects of my life that I feel like, especially after thinking about just what he said to me and how he said it, where it's like, if I'm really being introspective and like really looking at things in retrospect, there are many instances, I think, in my life where I have been somebody else's, version of what they think I should be, or, made excuses for, I'm like, well, I can't do this because there's not like, financial stability, or, there's not like a straight path to be able to do it. It's not like you can start as an intern and just like, work your way to the top like a traditional company. So therefore you can't do that. That's impossible. Your dreams are impossible. I don't know. All I know is that what he told me I'm going to end up thinking about a lot more, probably outside of this podcast, because I'm not being very articulate. Yeah. I'm not articulating it very well tonight, folks, but it was very cool what he said, and I will remember it for some time, and I just hope that I can actually do some of the things that he said and really do it, not just say it, but really, really do it. So we'll see what happens with that. But I do think that going forward, I'm going to just do my best to really be my true self, and hopefully that benefits you guys. Honestly, benefits you all. That's really ultimately what I hope, is that, the creativity that I have inside of me, that I'm putting it out in the right channel, the right medium, and that I'm able to further my expression, I guess, further myself as a creative. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. But let me see if I have any last thoughts on this. It was just great. The experience was absolutely phenomenal. I would do it again 10 out of 10 times, whatever. If they ever came back and did it again, I would do it. And I would say if they ever come to your city, John Heater, Efren Ramirez, John Grice, definitely check it out, because you're supporting film, you're supporting your local community, and I mean, it's just a unique time. It's a unique time, and I mean, if you're a film lover, or if you're just someone that has a passion for the arts and entertainment, going to something like this shouldn't even be a question. It should be an absolute. You should definitely go. And also see Napoleon Dynamite if you haven't seen it. It is a funny movie, and yeah, I mean, it's hard to believe that it's 17 years old, but it's a great time, and I had an absolute blast meeting the cast. And I actually, okay, that's the last thing I'll say. I did tell them that I have a podcast that I host. I didn't try to plug it and be like, hey, can you guys subscribe to it? Because I really highly doubt that they would do that, especially since I only launched this podcast on August 13th, so it hasn't even been that long. So maybe, though, hey, let's give it some time. Who knows? Over time, this thing could take off, and I could be doing great. And who knows? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? I feel like I actually got one of them to come on here, or just anybody that's been in TV and film. It seems like one of those pipe dreams things, but that's the thing. There we go. That's the last thing I'll say. It's like I have this tendency. It's like, oh, if I talk about something, wouldn't that be great if John Heater would come on my podcast? And then just as quickly in the same sentence, I tell myself, oh, well, that's impossible. No way. Well, what the hell kind of thinking is that? Honestly. I mean, what is that? That's me telling myself no. I don't want to do that. And that's what I kept thinking about when John Grice, I hope I'm saying his last name right, but the guy who played Uncle Rico, when he was saying, I don't know, the way he was saying that to me, it kept making me think about that thought in the back of my head of how many times in my life do I subconsciously talk myself out of it because of anxiety or fear or self-doubt or depression or whatever the hell it is. It's no more. I don't want to do that anymore. And I think I've said that a couple times on this, but whatever. I have to say it out loud because it needs to be said. It needs to be said, and I need to be able to process it or something. Hey, this microphone can serve as therapy too, people. It doesn't have to just be your entertainment. But anywho, I'll try to mull that over. I'm gonna try to figure that out. But it was a great experience, and I do hope that you found me rambling about this for the last hour interesting. So there you go. All right, that's gonna go ahead and wrap it up for today's episode of Screen Speak. But again, I really appreciate each and every one of you for coming by and to oh my god, I've said I'm gonna wrap this damn thing up like like 5 times now, but here's the final wrap up. Because we are already hitting October of 2021, I cannot believe that. I have decided that during the month of October, I am going to be having some podcasts specifically dedicated to horror movies. So might be a bit cliche because it's October, it's the spooky month. Ooh, but there's some good horror movies, and I'm not a big horror movie fan, but there's a few that I have planned to share my thoughts on with you guys, and maybe have some guests on with me to talk about those scary movies with. So definitely keep an eye out for that here in the future. But again, thank you all so much for listening. I really do sincerely appreciate it. And I will see you all in the next episode of Screen Speak. Woo! Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording because this is super embarrassing. Okay. Here, why don't I'll stop the recording like I'm Napoleon. Hey, you idiot. Why are you still listening? Okay. Alright, I'm actually done now. See you, everybody.